How's it going, everybody? Hungry Guy here with another recipe review. Now, when it comes to chicken breast, sometimes it can get very tiring, and when it's served to you, you just want to throw it away. So I hope that the Kiev recipe from Food Wishes will give the chicken breast the lift that it desperately needs. In terms of the equipment, you should have all the essentials, and although Chef John uses a pestle and mortar, I'm sure you can do this recipe without it. And if you don't have a meat tenderizer, you can just use a rolling pin. It will work just as great. But it would be a good idea to use a digital thermometer, just so that you are accurate with the temperature of your oil. If you don't have it, you can just use the wooden spoon method, or in the worst case scenario, you can just drop a couple of breadcrumbs to test the oil. All of the ingredients are easily available, including the panko breadcrumbs, and for my sides, I will be making a cucumber salad and some mashed potatoes. Now, the recipe itself looks really simple with a couple of waiting stages, and I will also weave into the recipe making the sides so you can get a better idea of how to get everything sorted at the same time. Now, let's see if you should try it at home. First is prepping the butter. Make sure to let it rest for at least 30 minutes outside of the fridge before you start mixing it with the garlic. And also provide a relaxing environment to maximize its flavor. I smashed the garlic with a little bit of salt and then added the parsley. More smash and finally added the butter. My butter got a little too relaxed and I was able to just mix it with a spoon. If you don't have a pestle and mortar, then just mince your garlic on a chopping board and mix everything in a bowl with a fork. The end result will be almost identical, but the pestle and mortar helps to release more flavors. I would also be more generous with the salt here. As my butter was very soft, I popped it into the freezer instead of the fridge for 30 minutes. While the butter was firming up, I prepped the ingredients for the mash and the salad. Peeled, cubed and rinsed the potatoes, covered with cold water and set them aside for later. For the salad, I thinly sliced the cucumber and spring onions, and if you don't have a mandolin, consider grabbing one, as it makes slicing cucumbers and potatoes a breeze. I popped them into a bowl and then into the fridge for later. I moved on to pounding out the chicken breast, which was the hardest part of this recipe. Make sure you use a much larger cling film than your chicken, as it will curl up here and there. Also make sure not to make any holes in the meat and be precise, unlike me. It's not just about smashing the meat as hard as possible, but it's cheaper than therapy. For the second breast, I butterflied it, which made it much simpler to flatten out. Make a cut from the side and do not cut through the chicken. When you are seasoning, be generous. I under-seasoned mine and there is no way to add the salt later, which made my eating experience sadder, and I want you to avoid that. Next is wrapping the butter. If you didn't make any holes, it will be simple. Make sure to do it as tightly as you can. And when you are wrapping it in cling film, do it tightly as well. This is crucial to maintain the round shape. My first one was so-so, but the second one looked perfect. I popped them into the freezer to firm up, but it was a nightmare. The chicken was refusing to firm up. It took me almost an hour to have a minimum level of firmness on them, but I was starving, so I just went with it. The issue might have been too much cling film, so make sure to only use a single layer. Mine curled up too much, so I added more without removing the curled one, as I was lazy, which was my mistake. Next was the paneing stage. As my balls were fairly soft, I was panicking and moving as fast as I could. And please, use bigger balls than you think you need. Otherwise, you will end up with a mess like me. My fiancé already said I make too much mess, and this did not help my case. And remember to season your flour. That is crucial to get the best flavor. My second Kiev actually had a hole and the butter was peeking out. I just crossed my fingers and decided to make it anyway. And it went better than expected. Once they were covered, I popped them into the freezer for 15 minutes. Put the oil on, and with 5 minutes before it was time to fry them, I popped my potatoes on the stove. Once they start boiling, turn your heat down and boil them until fork tender. It should take around 15 minutes. I popped the first Kiev into the oil that was at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. The one that didn't have the hole. I wanted to get the other one as cold as possible to give it the best fighting chance. It turned out beautiful and golden with a minute per side. I anxiously popped the second one in and there was no immediate issues with the hole, which was a load off my chest as I was expecting it to start splashing everywhere. I did start to smell some garlic after around 50 seconds, so gave it a flip and fried the other side for only 40 seconds, so it turned out paler than the first one. But it was still in one piece, so a success so far. I seasoned them before popping into the 400° Fahrenheit oven for 15 minutes. I had a total of 20 minutes at this point to finish up the mash and the salad. Once the potatoes were done, I strained them and passed them through a potato ricer to get that smooth, velvety texture we all love. If you don't have a ricer, just use a potato masher and then press them through a sieve. I heated up the milk and butter until hot and melted, added it to the mash and whisked. Add it gradually until you get the consistency you like. Don't blame me if they are too soft. And then season to taste with salt and pepper. For the salad, I just added the yogurt and seasoned to taste with salt and pepper. Easy peasy. After prepping them, I still had some minutes to spare before the Kievs were done, and I hope you will too. We all like to have everything hot on the plate. I took the Kievs out and my heart sank. There was leakage. I was unable to face my family anymore. But I was hopeful that only one of them leaked. I plated everything, as always, in the least appetizing way. I am starting to consider this a skill of mine. I cut through that beautiful Kiev and the liquid gold came out. Woohoo! We did it. The second Kiev also had the liquid gold inside and only leaked a little while baking, so have faith in yours, even if you mess up along the way. Let's give it a taste. So, we've managed to do it. I was slightly worried that both of them leaked in the oven, but fortunately it was only one. Now this one came out beautifully. Smells amazing. Let's give it a try. It's good, it's very tasty, and you get those notes of garlic and parsley. However, they are not punchy enough in my opinion. It might be because my garlic was weak. Next time I will do this recipe, I will add maybe twice as much garlic, so I get more punchiness from it. I will also add more salt to the butter itself, because I feel like the chicken is under-seasoned, and by adding more salt to the butter, I also believe it will be more punchy. Let's see how it tastes with the potatoes. It works very well with mashed potatoes. The potatoes absorb the butter, so they just get more flavor. And when you combine it with the crunchy exterior of the chicken, it's just a very nice eating experience. You can experiment with the amount of garlic and the amount of herbs, as well as what herbs you will use on the inside, so that you can make it appealing to your own taste buds. Overall, you should definitely try it at home. It's a 4 out of 5 for me. It is a little bit under-seasoned, but that's entirely my fault. So keep that in mind when you are making this recipe, so that you add enough salt and get a correct level of seasoning for your chicken. When making this recipe, wrapping the chicken around the butter will be the most difficult part. So when you are flattening the chicken out, make sure you don't create any holes, because otherwise it gives the opportunity for butter to leak, which is not something that we want. I hope I gave you some useful tips and helped you make up your mind. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.